Ireland under-21s versus Israel, Sean. We'll maybe talk about this before. I know it's on Friday night, so that's tomorrow night, isn't it? Before Scotland-Ireland, which will be Saturday, so if people are listening to this, give them a chance. And skip ahead if you want to watch listen to this, if you're listening on the podcast, with the timestamps available in the description. Ireland 21s versus Israel, Sean. I'm not even certain if Evan Ferguson will lead the line or not, but I did read a great interview with him on the 42.ie, well worth checking out. He's a player that seems to have his feet on the ground. He actually touched on the 15-year-old coming on for Arsenal and how it kind of gave him a bit of encouragement, and he actually had his own opinion that they would have talked to the players, the club, and if he's old enough, he's good enough, he's dying to get in there himself and get stuck into the Premier League. Shame about Graham Potter leaving. He touched on that, but he's also excited, and he said nothing's really changed around the club given the under-23 manager stepped in, went straight away until the new appointment. So yeah, you excited for Ireland under-21? This is the first leg. The second leg will be a few days later, and it's a massive opportunity to reach our first ever under-21 European Championships.
Yeah, and to show how far the Ireland under-21s come, I mean, any one of the 4 or 5 strikers could lead the line, whether it's Mipu or the Beck, who's on loan at Port Vale from West Ham, whether it's JJ Koja, whether it's Evan Ferguson, Aaron Conley. So there's a huge depth of talent there. Obviously, Evan Ferguson's the youngest. I think he's the youngest in the squad. He's one of the big names. You mentioned how grounded he is. I do think it tends to happen where his father played professional football over in England for a while. He was with Coventry. He played with a few League of Ireland clubs. I always think that really helps. And you're actually seeing a lot more of it now in the UK where, say, Rory Delap's son, Liam, is, he's Irish qualified, obviously, but I think he's going to play for England. He's having a really good run of it with Man City. I just think you're seeing more of that happen. It's probably just a genetic thing, but also a product of your upbringing. So to see someone like Evan Ferguson now 17 years of age, I think the key for him is going to be, and obviously it would have been easier with Graham Potter there, he'll have to map out maybe in his own head, but with Brighton as well, how where he's going to be when he's 2021. So it could be 2 loan spells, 3 loan spells, could be another year of playing under 21s football in England, which he's scoring regularly at. So that's going to be the next stage for Evan Ferguson, and you just got to hope that he stays injury free. But a lot can change. But he looks someone who's got the physical attributes anyway at the moment as a 17-year-old to go a long way in the game, and it'd be interesting to see if he does start against Israel with the introduction of Conley in there. But it is certainly a position where we've a lot of promise in our under-21s team in the centre-forward area. It's just about creating a centre-forward for Ireland that's going to get 30 international goals or 25 international goals, which is probably our biggest problem area. But now it's a big game against Israel, two playoff games. From looking at it, I think Israel have kind of gone with a youngish squad, and they're kind of hoping that a lot of their under-21s players who are playing with the senior team will be available for the second leg. So that there could be a bit of chopping and changing there, but it's a massive game in Tallaght, and I think it's going to be close to a full house. So there's a lot of those under-21s players like Conor Coventry, Leo Connor. I know Gavin Kilkenny's injured, that's been playing under-21 football for quite a while now, and Brian Maher be deserving if they can qualify for a major championship, considering the likes of Adam Ida, who's obviously injured, Jason Nye, Nathan Collins, Andrew Omadamabeli, and Michael Obafemi, Troy Parrott, who are with the senior team, Gavin Bazunu. So it's a big chance, and just hopefully they grasp it.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of the lesser known players, because I know a lot of people tune in for that, but very briefly on Aaron Conley, because people obviously have a relationship there, given they saw him at Brighton score those 2 goals against Spurs. I remember watching it going, we have a superstar on our hands, when he started running in behind that Georgia defence when Mick McCarthy didn't start him but brought him on, and from memory we didn't break them down. I think it was a 0-0 draw. It hasn't quite happened through a combination of niggly injuries, through a combination of different things. It's hard to really put your finger on it, but he's playing in Serie B at the moment. And I understand you're never going to say no to being called up to your country, but I was very impressed. Again, I know it's a soft interview, it's the FAI interview, but I was very impressed with what I heard from the few clips about wanting to play for the under-21s and get his career back on track. And he is very young, people forget. So a little word on Aaron Conley, it seems that the last few weeks he has seen to trying to not get his career on track, because it's a bit harsh, but we all probably had maybe too high expectations after the debut, and it's not just an impressive debut for at club level, but also for Ireland as well.
Yeah, no, you have to admire Aaron Conley. I mean, he took a big risk, and he still is. We're going to find out about the risk and reward of playing, going over to Italy to play for Venezia, I think they call him Serie B, because he could easily stayed with a middle of the road Championship League One club, and picked up an easier wage and stayed more in the public eye and have less risk of having to learn a language. But he spoke about having to leave the circles he was in England, and obviously it's kind of well known. There's a lot of backstory there with kind of relationships and different things, and being disciplined at Brighton and things like that. But I thought it was very interesting how he's gone out there and to try and almost find himself in a way and find a new culture. And it's too early on to judge it, but to hear then that he wants to come back and play for the 21s. Now, obviously, it's a lucrative game. It's a playoff game. It's not like it's Armenia away or a couple of long away trips. It's a big opportunity to impress the Tallaght, and there's absolutely no denying that Ireland are short on goals. So if Aaron Conley can bag in a couple over the two legs, he'll immediately shoot himself back into Stephen Kenny's plans. But it'd be an interesting one what Jim Crawford does with him. I know Crawford had him, I think, with the Ireland under-18s, whether he starts him straight away. I think with a couple of injuries and I think he might just do that. I think he's he might be forced into doing it, especially at home. Considering how far away the Isreal trip will be.
Just Jim Crawford, he mentioned excellent Aaron Conley. He also mentioned how mature he's been. So I'm guessing he's probably leaning towards starting him. I think it's just too big a game for the development of all of our. I don't feel you're taking away the development of a younger player if you manage to give them a massive tournament to prepare for next summer. Do you know what I mean? So I think Aaron Conley, obviously, he has to give us the best opportunity. So I reckon he probably will start him. But yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. Just touch on, you mentioned a lot of the players, Sean, but maybe a couple of players to watch and some of the clubs they're involved with, because for people listening would have watch the Premier League, would watch Ireland senior teams, maybe you wouldn't know who's top of the Championship, but wouldn't be following the Championship week on week, and then League One's just completely obscures them. So for those listening, there are a couple of players to watch in that Ireland under-21s. That could be the difference against Israel, but also to watch for maybe potentially in 3 or 4 years being called up to the Ireland senior team.
Well, I think a lot of people will know Will Smallbone, and he's really stood out in the last couple of Ireland under-21 camps. He's on loan at Stoke now this year. Michael O'Neill signed him. Obviously, Michael O'Neill has moved on. It's now Alex Neil in charge, and I think Alex Neil started him in his last couple of games. And then someone like Tariq Wright, who's been a big player, 3 goals, 3 assists in the under-21 campaign. He's at Aston Villa on loan at Bradford City, who are managed down, I don't know if you know, by Mark Hughes. And Bradford obviously a huge club, brilliant stadium there. Yeah. They've been kind of rotten. They've
been living off staying in the Premier League under Paul Gill, haven't they?
Yeah, and getting to a League Cup final by beating Arsenal in the semi on penalties. Yeah. But Mark Hughes has got a bit of a renaissance there, and Tariq Wright was a transfer deadline day sign, and then I think he scored in his last game, but it's been very bright for them. So he's someone I think he'll start on maybe the right wing or the left wing, and then someone like Conor Coventry, he made his Premier League debut this year, coming on as a late sub against City. He's not seeing enough action at first team level with West Ham. He's played one of the conference qualifier games, had a loan spell at MK Dons last year where they loved him there, but you really want to see him kick on now, and I think he'll come to a stage at the end of next season where he'll might have to be to move on from his boyhood club West Ham. But he's Ireland's most capped ever under-21 player. You've got Leo Connor, who I think a lot of Irish fans will remember right back, who's got an international cap. A couple of injuries at the back, so Aaron Cashin I'm sure will start from Derby, who's been a huge player for them ever since Wayne Rooney was able to introduce him after the embargo they had. So there's a lot of really talented young Irish players there. A lot of players who've come via the national leagues in Ireland, as in the under-17, under-19 league. So there's a lot of good work being done there. But it's not going to be easy, but you do think they have a bit of a chance. And there is a lot of talk that Joe Hodge, very well known, who was at Man City, moved to Wolves there last season, still playing under 21 football, played England under 16s and 17s, but Ireland under 16 and Ireland under 17. There's talks that he might start centre midfield due to the absence of Gavin Kilkenny, who's injured. So, I mean, it would be very interesting to see him, because he's a very, from what we've seen of him in an Ireland shirt at the under-19 championships a couple of years ago in 2019, he looks a really good player. So it's going to be a really interesting game. I'm really looking forward to seeing it, and it's going to be a difficult one for him. You just feel like the second leg being away, I just hope Ireland don't go too gung-ho and give themselves a mountain to climb out in Israel.
Yeah, it's an exciting game in Tallaght. So, but like you said, it's important, given that there's no away goal rules, that they're 1-1s are fine, 2-1s are fine. Just don't. You can't win in the first leg. You can lose in the first leg. So, exciting couple of games for the Ireland under-21s versus Israel. When you mentioned Ireland's most capped player at under-21 level, I was thinking of asking you the England most capped player, and I got confused. And I was thinking Eddie Nketiah, but he's the top goal scorer on England under-21 level. But who is the most capped under-21 player in England? Does anyone know out there? But do you know yourself?
I think it's either James Milner, he's certainly up there, and I think it's Francis Jeffers up there. Is that? Did I see that before? Or is he goal scorer? I think Francis Jeffers was goal scorer.
Yeah,
but it is Milner, is it?
Milner, played 46 times for England under-21. So there you go. Bit of Google there when Sean was chatting away. But yeah, there's an interesting fact for you. Ireland under-21s versus Israel. Really looking forward to that. It's actually a massive couple of days for the Irish football